Vikings are commonly known as ferocious warriors who would go on brutal raids, pillaging villages, and taking what they want. But one of the most common tropes in Viking movies is that of the shield maiden, the fierce female Viking warrior who can fight alongside men and even best them in battle. In fact, this isn't too far from the truth. However, there is more to the story. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. If you like history, make sure to subscribe. While women in Viking culture did have more rights than women in many other ancient cultures, they were still very much second-class citizens. And if they happened to be captured by a rival clan or during a raid, their lives could become a whole lot worse. In today's video, we look at what Vikings really did to captured women after raids. Before we get into it, remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing for more great historical tales. And you can also check out our site for more content. During the Viking Age, which lasted from the 8th to the 11th century AD, Scandinavian raiders would travel across Europe, pillaging and plundering. Their targets included monasteries, towns, villages, and even other ships. This was done for several reasons, including obtaining valuable goods and resources, expanding their influence and power, and sometimes just for the thrill of the fight. The Vikings were known to attack coastal settlements and major trading hubs, looting and burning everything in sight. They were also known to sail up rivers to target inland communities that had not prepared for an attack. The choice of targets was often based on factors such as the wealth of the settlement, the ease of access, and the potential for plunder. For example, monasteries were often targeted because they were typically repositories of valuable items such as gold, silver, relics, and books. Likewise, trading hubs were attractive because they housed merchants and traders who often carried valuable goods on them. However, during these raids, the Vikings were not only interested in stealing material possessions, they also targeted women. Now let's clarify something here. The Vikings didn't differentiate between attacking a village and capturing its women. That wasn't their main goal. It was simply a byproduct of their pillaging. You see, back then, women were considered property, especially during the Viking Age when women's rights weren't exactly a thing. Most of the women taken during these raids were considered booty, just like any other treasure the Vikings could lay their hands on. These women were typically held in low regard and were often subjected to terrible conditions and mistreatment. Some of the women were killed, some were forced into sexual slavery, while others were sold into markets where they were bought and sold like cattle. One way in which the Vikings profited from captured women was through marriage. This practice was common among both male and female Vikings. Male Vikings would often seek to marry women from neighboring clans or kingdoms to form alliances and strengthen their bonds. Marrying a captured woman could also be a way to acquire additional booty, as the woman would typically bring with her a dowry of goods and valuables. Female Vikings, on the other hand, were typically married off to male members of their clan, or to other Vikings they encountered through trading or raiding. These marriages were often arranged, and were primarily seen as a means of strengthening alliances and securing economic benefits. It was also common for Vikings to take multiple spouses. Polygamy was not uncommon in Viking culture, and some wealthy or powerful Vikings had harems of both male and female lovers. Captured women were sometimes forced into polygamous relationships as well, either as secondary wives or as concubines. Another way the Vikings profited from captured women was through the slave trade. During the Viking Age, slavery was widely practiced, and Vikings were known to participate in the buying and selling of slaves throughout Europe and even in the Middle East. Captured women were often enslaved and forced to work as servants, maids, or in other domestic roles. They were also sometimes sold to slave traders who would transport them to distant markets. In some cases, enslaved women were forced into sexual slavery and became prostitutes. It is important to note that the treatment of captured women by the Vikings varied depending on a number of factors, including the individual. Viking the circumstances of the capture and the value placed on the woman's skills or attributes. Some Vikings may have treated their captives with relative kindness, while others were more brutal and exploitative. Additionally, women who were captured in war might have been treated differently than those taken during raids or pillages. While the exact numbers are unknown, historians estimate that thousands of women were captured and taken back to Scandinavia. Many of these women were subjected to horrific treatment, including torture, rape, and murder. Others were forced into unwanted pregnancies and had their babies sold into slavery. The trauma of captivity and the lasting effects of mistreatment and abuse continued to haunt these women for the rest of their lives. Despite the brutality and exploitation endured by many captured women, there were also stories of resilience and resistance. Some women were able to negotiate better treatment for themselves and their children, while others attempted to escape captivity or even plotted acts of revenge against their captors. The Vikings' treatment of captured women during raids and pillages was a complex and disturbing aspect of their culture. While it's important to acknowledge the brutality and exploitation that many women endured, it's also crucial to recognize their strength and resilience in the face of adversity. By learning from these stories, we can work towards creating a better future and ensuring that such atrocities are never repeated. Many people assume that the Vikings were only interested in taking young, attractive women as their prizes. However, this was not the case. They were willing to take women of all ages and appearances. There are numerous accounts of elderly women being taken as booty. For example, in 862, Dada, an army of Northmen attacked and sacked the Frankish city of Tours, carrying off a large amount of booty, including 6 nuns. Another account from the same time period tells of a Viking raid on the island of Iona, where monks were specifically ordered to spare the women and children. During the raid, the Vikings reportedly carried off a large number of women and children. This shows that Vikings didn't discriminate based on age or attractiveness. Instead, they took whoever they could get their hands on. Even during battles, there are records of Vikings forcing captured women and children to stay in the center of the battlefield, using them as human shields. This again shows that for Vikings, women were more of a means to an end rather than an object of desire. In conclusion, the Vikings' treatment of captured women during raids and pillages was a dark and disturbing part of their history. While their actions may seem barbaric and uncivilized to us today, it's important to remember that they were products of their time and place. The Viking worldview was shaped by a variety of factors, including their religious beliefs, social norms, and cultural values. And unfortunately, women were often seen as nothing more than property. Despite the horrors they faced, it's important to remember that captured women were more than just objects or victims. They were real people with hopes, dreams, and loved ones. Their stories should be remembered and honored, and their resilience in the face of adversity should be celebrated. By learning about the Vikings' treatment of captured women, we can gain a deeper understanding of this complex and often misunderstood culture. And we can also work to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated in our own time. Tell us, what do you think? How do you think women felt after being taken by Vikings? What would you do if you were in their shoes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on any of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.